I've had a breakthrough on Rule Kings, Rule Empires. Like, laying this out is going to be huge.
Hello and welcome to Rule Empires. I'm Josh Arnold, and today I want to share with you what I believe to be an invaluable tool of breaking down a deal and why I believe that we need to consider all areas of a deal to be successful. So, I'd like to draw it out for you. Okay, so how do I decide what deal to do, and what is it that's running through my mind when I'm choosing to choose one deal or another? So let's say we've got two deals. There's deal A and we've got deal B. So I'm looking at two deals. As I look at these deals, maybe one has a $100,000 entry cost. So I've got to either borrow, raise, or put up $100,000. Deal 2 is $200,000. Now, deal A has an opportunity of a $20,000 net profit. Deal 2 has a $40,000 net profit. Now, that's challenging. Which deal do I do? Well, it depends. Because more than just the amount of profit that we look at from a net result, we also need to look at it from the form of how much time am I going to have tied up in this deal. So now keep this in mind. We've got deal A that we're looking at, $100,000 investment. Deal B is a $200,000 investment. On the $100,000 deal, I'm looking at a $20,000 net profit, and I'm looking at a $40,000 net profit in deal 2. Now, or deal B. Both equally are about a 20% return net. And so I want you to keep that in mind because that's very important as we evaluate this deal. I'm going to click over here to the next page. And then the next thing I need to think about is my time. I need to think about how much time do I got tied up in making 20K versus 40K, knowing that to make 20K, I got to put up 100K. And in deal 2, I got to put up 200K. Now, I like making more money, so naturally thinking 40K is the deal I want to do if I have the available access to the 200K. But the other piece that I need to consider is how much time. Well, this deal of my actual time, of my time invested, because again, we're going to teach you how to build those relationships. We want you to know how to delegate, associate, and joint venture with other partners. And we're just looking at this in a vacuum, assuming that this is our portion of the deal. Our portion of the deal. But in deal 2, I'm going to have about 10 hours invested for whatever reason. It could be there's multiple partners, it's communication, it's requirement of my times going to check on the job site. I mean, there's a lot of different things that I'm going to be looking at to make that. But we're going to, again, look at it in a vacuum. There's 4 hours that I'm going to commit to this deal and 10 hours that I'm going to commit to this deal. So which one do I need to do? The answer is deal A. Just on those factors. And why? Because in deal A, I'm making $5,000 per hour, where in deal B, I'm making $4,000 per hour. Ultimately, at Rule Empires, our objective is lifestyle freedom. Now, profits are good, but time is better. And time relative to the percentage of rate of return that we're going to get is where our focus will remain. Okay, there is another metric that I've intentionally left off of these deals that I want us to consider. Very important as we talk more about building in a rule empire, what it takes to become a rule king and a rule queen. That answer is in deal A, and deal B, what is the relationship value? On the table of deal A versus deal B. What do I mean by relationship value? So as you begin to communicate and build and develop relationships throughout your community to strengthen your empire so that you can be more fluid as you move to transaction and transaction. You're going to be developing relationship with realtors. You're going to be developing relationships with contractors, attorneys, bankers, appraisers. I mean, there's all these different pieces that you're going to be looking at that you're going to need to develop. And I want you to keep those in mind. Okay, as we're focused on this piece that's generally anonymous to the books telling you about how to invest, it's one of the things that we think is paramount to your strength as a rural empire. Becoming a rural king or queen is building clout. Now, what is clout? Clout is the influence that you have in a business deal. And as you continue to be consistent in building your rural empire, so what can I do to strengthen my clout? Well, let's think about some of these things. One thing is, let me just get to where I can list a few. How many connections can I make? Well, all right, one is a realtor, right? So I can establish a great relationship with a realtor, having brought me the deal or having known that I'm going to eventually sell that deal. And I want to be able to delegate that out because that's going to take a lot of time. And there's a lot more to closing on a deal than just signing a contract. There's a lot that can be in that process, and you can be legally liable. You want to have someone that's a professional at that piece doing that for you. Another piece is your banker. Your banker / lender, which may be private in the beginning, and then as you go, let's say you're going to rent the property, it's a buy and hold. So you start out with a private lender, and you're doing a short-term deal with that rich uncle or that associated doctor, right? So you've got that piece to your puzzle, but then you're ultimately going to refinance to a more secure type loan, traditional type style, where you're getting typically a lower interest rate with a longer amortization and a fixed rate for a longer period of time versus doing your private lending. Now, that's not always the case, but it's a general rule. Okay, so as we do that, are we going to be able to also get more relationships as we're binding them together and building them more and more? And the more consistency you get this thing going, the more ability you have to do the next deal the next time and get this thing rolling. Because what you're going to need is to create a momentum for yourself in deal doing, and that's going to require more and more people. The more consistency you can do, the stronger your relationship's going to be, because there's the power of the self-interest. I think it's quoted by Adam Smith. I think I asked about that one time in the past, and I just want you to know that there is a value to having that consistency, building those relationships that strengthens. I mean, look, everybody works for somebody in some level. The realtor, look, he's got a broker. He wants to get more transactions done in his brokerage. The banker, he wants to do better for the president. The loan officer, they want to see that. The lender, the private lender, he wants some more turn of deals, because if he's got that kind of capital, he's probably in the habit of getting more and more capital that he needs to distribute. Believe it or not, money is not the hardest part of a deal. It's actually one of the easier parts once you establish yourself and you see that on a consistent basis you can generate deal after deal, profit after profit, and you're building your tree out. You're getting more and more strengthened so that you can withstand more storms as life comes. And so as we do that, let's just keep going down this list. We've got a realtor, we've got a banker, certainly we've got a contractor. And I don't mean just like a general contractor. And when you get started out, you're going to be doing more management yourself in the deal. And of course, that'll affect your time value piece. But we're going to talk more in depth about that. But not just the GC, But how about your HVAC guy? How about your electrician? How about your plumber? You know, we've got HVAC, you've got your plumber, you've got your electrician. How about your property manager? So if you're getting one for a buy and hold that you're eventually going to shift after your refi, with your property management team. You've also got your accountants. So the more properties you develop, you're going to need to have a professional accountant on your team, and you're going to be generating more than, and everybody's getting paid out of this deal. Everybody's getting one more inch up. And again, we're going back to that word clout that most people aren't talking about. If you're going to build a rural empire, and even in the big cities, I promise you the dudes that are doing the best deals are dudettes. The dudes are the dudettes that are doing the best deals and getting the biggest advantage, getting the edge. That's because they've created a clout. They've created an influence in their business that is a magnetizing piece, bringing people that want to do more and more deals, and you're going to find that it makes business and building that empire so much more available. All right, let's think about some more that maybe might not be so readily on our radar. How about the governments? What do I mean by governments? Well, back up. Governments doesn't have two S's, does it? What about governments? Which government? What am I even talking about? Well, I'll tell you. First of all, you got your federal. All right. Now, federal comes in on the end with your federal taxes, okay, and your capital gains that you'll probably be looking at. But another one is your state. You know, there's going to be not only state permits that you may have to get for the development of the property or the reconstruction, rezoning. There's all these different pieces. Or how about when you went to go form your partnership with your joint venture with the doctor or your uncle? You know what you had to do? You had to form an entity. And so those are permits and fees that are going to get paid. So you can whine about them. You can complain. Listen, you can murmur like the general guy out there, and that's why they say they can't make it, is because of all these challenges and everything. But how about utilize that as a tool and a skill in your box so that you can manifest a positive spin? Use the law of polarity. If there is a negative thing, that's attached to the fact that you've got permits and challenges that you've got to overcome, why not look at the positive side of that coin? Because the more you don't see it on the first deal, okay? I'm going to give you that nobody's going to notice in the federal level or at the state level if you're doing permits or if you're paying one level of capital gains. But as you're developing this empire, you are becoming something more valuable to those governments, even further than local. Now, when we get down to local, it becomes a big piece. Because when you get down to your local, you got your utilities, you got your permitting, so your codes, you got codes. Oh, that was awfully sexy, wasn't it? Codes. You've got to deal with your property taxes, at your county level or your city level. So again, you got to pay them. You're not getting around it. Or I say you got to pay them unless you want to deal with the consequences of not paying them, and those are awful consequences. We recommend you do things by the book, walk the line, do the things the right way. Just get your mindset right as you enter into this deal. And so as you're building your relationships with these people, which you're going to need as you continue to build your empire, you need these relationships strengthened. So as you do that, you got your federal, your state, your local governments. I promise you the mayor wants to be in close relation to the person that's developing their small town, taking junked houses that are susceptible for crime and drugs and these kind of things that are impediments to the success of a small community, but you start fixing those up and putting good quality tenants is raising the value. And you know what raising the value does? It increases the property taxes. Again, you can look at the negative side, but it's a positive side because we got better schools. We're getting better education for our kids when we're developing these towns and doing these things to make a great impact. You know, they want you to be involved and they want to find ways to help you. And you can then learn, and as your clout builds, you get better information. You get early information. So as you do that, you know, your local newspapers, because you've got advertising, right? Local newspapers, local advertisers. How about this? How about not just your plumber and your electrician? How about the fact that they have employees that have a job because the work is available. Things are getting done within that community. We always want to be focused on the big picture. How about sign shops? You know, you got sign shops. You got things you got to get done. You got sign shops. I know that sounds menial, but it sounds menial, but I promise you it makes a big impact. When you go into your banker, so you're going to see your banker, good. But how about the relationship you develop with the teller as you're making deposits? That counts. You know, when you take your men to go have a lunch, it's recommended that you find ways to add value to the relationships of your subcontractors and your contractors. Maybe take them out to lunch. Develop that. How about the local waitress at the restaurant? You know, that may seem insignificant, but if you're building a rural empire, guess what happens when this house gets done? Somebody needs to rent it. You know who that may be? That may be this waitress. You don't know that. You have to always be developing those relationships throughout this rural community. I realize in the big cities that stuff gets lost. But in a small community, like we're doing a deal over in Stanton right now, and that deal in Stanton, there's 650 people in that town. You don't think that they need to know that they're not aware as somebody comes into the community? Maybe you've just got one, but as you develop, and you've got 2 deals going, you got 2 properties, and they say, oh man, I knew that there was an upgrade to this part of town, and it seems like it's a really nice, I see that they're doing the next deal. I'd love to have one of those properties. You know, and you're developing that. You say, oh, well, call my property manager. Uh-oh, now we've just made another connection. Property managers they got utilities, right? We're going to call that guy. We're going to get some utilities going. This is all. I'm going to quit going on a rant for a second, but I just want to slow down and say, listen. The sum of the deal is greater than the net profit that it's going to show on your balance sheet at the end of the day. To build a rural empire, we're here to make an impact and develop great relationships, which is going to give us the leverage we need to create a consistency of deals within that community. As we do that, we're going to see us rise up to be small rural kings and queens that develop a lifestyle of freedom. We do this through relationships. And yes, you know, the numbers count, but they always have counted. There's more to the deal than making the money. When we go back to the page 1, so let's go all the way back to page 1. Maybe I can make $40,000 on this deal, but maybe I can serve more people and develop more relationships in this. And even though the percentage is the same and the risk is a little bit higher from an economic invested standpoint, is there more relationships to be developed here? Or is there more relationships to be developed here? Whatever the case is, I think that there's more to the deal. I believe it. I don't just think it. I believe that there's more to the deal than just the net result at the end of the day. Certainly, we've got our eye on the ball. We understand that the deal needs to make profit. But when I'm weighing that out as a rural king or queen to build a rural empire, I'm focused on the big picture. So as we've developed these relationships, we want to be focused on developing our empire the right way by building good relationships. I believe this will be invaluable to your success at having a lifestyle of freedom, one you can be proud of, one your children can be proud of, one that you don't have to lose sleep at night on the way you're earning your living. And as we do that, I want to continue to encourage you to do more deals. This is coming to you from Josh Arnold here at Rural Empires. Let's get to building that empire. Thank you. Have a good day.